the shelter part. So it's broken down into two components: rent of primary residence and owner's equivalent rent of residences. You guys probably has experienced renting, right, in the past. When you sign a rental contract, a tenancy agreement, you sign like a 1 year agreement, right? 1 or more years. You don't do it on the monthly basis. So what they will do is that they will have like a survey asking household, oh, what rent are you paying right now, right? And then the rent that they are paying is because it's based on the rent that they signed earlier on, right? Because people in general don't keep moving, right? They will just finish their rental agreement, and then they will renew it or they will move somewhere, right? And the reason why is the rental period is kind of long. So if you call them up and ask them what rent are you paying, they will say they were paying a high rent, but that's because of the rental agreement that they had a year before, right? Like a few months before. And the reason is last year rental was very high because of COVID and various reasons. Rental was very high, but now we can see that I'll show you later, based on more recent data, that new rentals are actually coming down. That it's in the CPI, is still showing a high value, and that is because of this rental agreement. And for the owner's equivalent rent, so for people that own their own property, so BLS will call them as well, right? It's like, hey, if you were to rent your place, how much will you be paying rent? So basically, they're asking the same kind of question as well, right? Probably, they will source for information about like people that are like living near to them. They're probably still paying very high rent. Right? All these are like lagging, is what I'm trying to say here. But eventually, it will be coming down. We look at the shelter part here. So the shelter, you can see it's like very high, right? But if you look at the change, you can see that it's already coming down, right? You can see that this is already coming down. Let me just narrow it down here. It's coming down, but it's coming down slowly. It's coming down really slowly. But based on the housing prices I'm going to show you later, we can see that this is going to come down eventually. So if you look at the median sales price of houses sold in the United States, we can see that it has been coming down, right? It's been coming down, but right now it's been kind of like sticky. But from the peak, it has already started coming down. Median sales price, so what exactly is this? They will line up from the cheapest to the most expensive price. Then they will take the 50th percentile, right in the middle. They will take the house that is sold right in the middle, and that will be the median value. So this is not, it's not like an average where you will be affected by, like very expensive prices and stuff like that. But if you look at the Case-Shiller US National Home Price Index, so this is a bit different from the median sales because just look at expensive houses as well, right? And also they have a way of calculating in such a way that it's a recurring sales on the same kind of house. And so this is, if you look at this is also coming down. It came down from the high of March 2022, but it started to come up again, right? Okay, so if you look at this, it's a bit sticky here, right? And this part it seems to be coming back up again, right? Even though it fell a lot. We look from like so many years, it has never had such a big drop, except from like during the 2008. This drop is huge, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that housing prices has already come down. But if you look at the shelter part, it's coming down a little bit slowly, but eventually it will come down. But if you look at this Case-Shiller prices still came up a little bit, right? Or this median price is still a bit sticky. Like, what is the reason for it being so sticky? Like, why doesn't it come down a lot more? Or why is this going up? Do you guys want to guess the reason why?
Because the people don't want the rent. Landlords doesn't want the rent to go down.
That is partially the reason. The rent is high across the board, right? So if I were to buy a place, people, for example, if I want to sell you the place, hey, I'm fetching high rents here, right? Although the rent has been coming down, but it's still kind of high. So I will want to sell you at a higher price. But why is causing the rent to be high?
The interest rate, is it because the
Yes,
interest rate is high? So
exactly.
that's why, yeah.
It's because of the interest rate, because of the mortgage rates. Like mortgage is high. So isn't this so ironic
Yeah, yeah,
that
it's,
the reason why this is not able to come down is precisely because of the Fed interest rate, the high interest rate. So it's like a chicken and egg thing, right? So the Fed is like, okay, you know what? I don't want to cut rates. But because you are not cutting rates and it kind of flow in terms of mortgage, that in terms of housing price is high. And another thing is also, if okay, you look at the right now, a lot of people are not exactly buying properties because of the high mortgage rate. I give you a very good example of my friend. So I used to have a ex-co-worker, right, in Shanghai. So he relocated to New York, and he's living in New Jersey right now. And he bought a place in New Jersey, and he's paying. So he got a very good mortgage rate. He signed a 30-year mortgage. The Fed raised interest rate. He actually secured a mortgage loan for 30 years at a fixed interest rate of three three to 4% each. He was so happy, because he was like, wow, I'm so lucky, right? Because I'm able to lock in such a low interest rate before the Fed actually raised the interest rate. But basically he did it entirely by luck. He didn't actually foresee that inflation will be, sticky. Even though he locked in a very low interest rate, it's not entirely a good thing. Do you know why? I mean, it's a good thing, but what is one downside about this? Like, what is one thing that is considered bad for him?
when interest rate drops down, he cannot exercise that.
Uh, as in right now, because okay, we're talking about like right now, based on the situation now, not about whether interest rate is going to go down in the future. We're talking about right now. So you lock in a low interest rate, right, for your mortgage. What does it mean for you? Say you want to upgrade, you want to buy a new place. Would you buy
Oh,
a new place?
no, I cannot unless I pay a penalty.
Say you sell the place, you
Yeah,
repay your loan. You will not want to take a new mortgage, right? Because you already locked in a low rate. So you'll be less incentivized to buy a new place, correct?
yeah,
Because you
true.
already lock in a low mortgage rate. You only do it when the mortgage rate start coming down, right? So when the mortgage start coming down, or then you will start looking for a new place, you'll buy a new place. So for whoever that has already bought a place via mortgage, when they lock in the low rates, they're not going to go into the housing market to buy new properties, right? Because now the mortgage rate is so high, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So that is one of the thing is that like home sales is probably not very high as well. So it's preventing people from buying. Okay. So if you look at the national rent, this is a example. They have a more way of like collecting more recent data. They see that the rent has been actually coming down. So this is one thing that to note as well. So you have property prices that has already come down from its peak, a bit sticky here because of inflation, right? And then we have rent that has been coming down a lot, like it's close to zero, and some of them have been even negative, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that for the shelter component, it is probably going to come down, continue coming down, which means that if you exclude shelter from the CPI, it will easily go below 3%. That means in a way the Fed has already succeeded in dealing with the inflation. And the Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, has already stated that they are probably not going to hike interest rate anymore. They will just stay the course. But now what we want is when they will start cutting rates. And if the shelter components keep on continuing going down, and if it goes down, it will go down very fast. Like they start buying a new place and they start renewing their rental, all this indicator will all come going down. And then when it go down, the whole CPI will hit 2% very fast. And by that time, the Fed will have no choice but to cut interest rate. Remember, the whole reason why the Fed wants to cut interest rate is because they don't want to go into a deflationary spiral, right? And the 2% is the target interest rate. It doesn't mean that they want the CPI or the PC, the core CPI or PCE to hit 2% before they start cutting rates. While before that, they will already start cutting rates, because all this data that we're looking here, this economic data, they are all backwards looking. For example, it's May now, right? Just we are looking at the April. So in May, the April CPI will come out. So even from this perspective, we are having a 1 month delay. And a lot of these are lagging indicators as well, right? And which is a further delay. So what I'm trying to say here is that all these are all backward looking data. But the Fed and the market is forward looking, right? They are looking forward. Even the stock market is forward looking. The whole reason why the market is going up right now, other than the ChatGPT AI boom, is because they are forward looking, that they know that the inflation is probably has already come down.